Charlie Kirk left an incredibly tragic and chilling message before he passed, and a lot of it is coming true, unfortunately. And today we're going to talk about what that message is, but also what has happened since his untimely death. I mean, the fallout is astronomical. And one of the biggest things that I see happening, and we'll talk about this as well, is the same message he had that he spent tens of thousands of hours trying to get across to people is seemingly being destroyed from within, and people that are even close to him. It just gets worse. Every time we see a little bit of new information, none of this gets better at all. But this is something that even Charlie couldn't see, or maybe he did actually. We'll talk about these messages, and I'm going to give you my opinion. I want to hear yours, whatever it might be. If you care about the conservative movement, if you care about gun rights, the First Amendment, or any of this, you should definitely care about this as well. So I'm going to give you my opinion. Let me know whatever yours is. Down below, let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, this comes from Candace Owens, and if you follow my channel, you know how I feel about her. I've talked about this on my channel very openly. There are some people that are clinging to every single word she says, from Charlie coming to her in a dream and telling her that he was betrayed. A lot of craziness. There's also some things that she's right on, right? And this is one of those text message exchanges that she actually shared herself. And what Charlie said in 2018 was that he felt like he could be taken out at any time. He even compared himself to Moses a little bit. Now, I didn't personally know Charlie, so I cannot imagine him saying, oh yeah, I'm similar to Moses, like in a look at me, I'm so great type of way. But I'm sure on some level, he was like, I can only lead people so far, but I may not be able to get them to cross the line, right? The finish line. I may not be able to get them to victory, right? And his main messaging was victory in Christ, but also the conservative messaging as well. But here's the thing about Charlie, he was not exaggerating. And I'm sure, if anybody else saw these messages at the time, maybe Candace herself, I don't even know. But I'm sure it's like, oh, come on, that's kind of a little overboard. But he knew what he was walking into, right? These were not just like, safe spaces. These were places that were super hostile to who he was. And remember, he wasn't always talking to big crowds, and he certainly wasn't always protected with security. And even that, we saw there was gaps in his security, right? So he knew the risk, and the risk was probably a lot greater than anybody saw. But he knew at some level, right, this is hostile territory, right? Colleges for decades and decades and decades had been training students to think one way. Then all of a sudden you have people like Steven Crowder, who started this, and then Charlie Kirk, who exploded this whole thing. And now you got young men and women thinking a whole lot differently about conservatism. But of course that didn't come without its price, right? Multiple death threats probably all the time, is, according to reports. Charlie got them constantly. Steven Crowder, he would have things thrown at him and people being violent. We see what's going on right now at TPUSA events. The other side is as tolerant as they can be with people that share the same opinions. That tolerance fades off very quickly once you espouse any ideas that are different than theirs. But here's what's happened since his untimely death. I mean, just recently you had Candace Owens. She goes on CNN. She talks about messages. Oh, Discord didn't have those messages. Well, they were actually text messages. You have people talking about a second shooter. There's a bush that looks like a shooter. There's a microphone gun that Charlie was holding. There's a guy with a palm gun. There's trap doors. Tyler Robinson's a patsy. Claims of Israel, most of which we've disproven right here on the channel. And yet, some people still believe all of this is true. Now, that doesn't mean we know everything, and that doesn't mean Tyler Robinson wasn't working with somebody else. I totally admit that, and you should ask questions. I think that's fine, but you should only make accusations once you have the proof to do it. That's the clear difference here, and that's what's not being done in other so-called channels and journalism, if you will. So people can just kind of say whatever they want and get away with it. Now, that may seem like, oh, well, you have one person maybe doing that, or a couple people doing that. What's the big deal? Well, it's literally tearing the conservative movement apart beyond anything Charlie could have ever built it up with, right? So I guess in other words, Charlie's message went from a very high level when he was alive to a super high level when he passed. which is obviously super tragic, but his message just exponentially went through the roof. Now you're having people look at the same organization that he built, the people that are left behind, and saying, hey, I don't trust you. I don't know if I trust your message. They're not simply just disagreements, but they're literally split off. And so you have people that are fighting amongst each other that should be working together. Now, here's something that Charlie understood, though. You don't have to agree with everybody, even to give them a platform. Remember, Charlie is the same one that was willing to give up money for his organization in order to platform people like Tucker Carlson. That's incredible. Some people would never platform Tucker Carlson, even Candace Owens, who obviously he disagreed with on some things. He would not deplatform them. That was one of the important things that Charlie was willing to do, was to make sure everybody actually had a voice, but not just people that mainly agreed with him or people that agree with him on everything, the people that even disagreed with him, right? First to the line, give them the mic. I think that probably changed more minds than anything he ever did. Now, some people, of course, will say, oh, it's for viral clips, and he was just trying to make, kids on college campuses look dumb. Well, that's not the case at all. If you look at the amount of people that turn towards the conservative movement from college campuses, by the way, we're talking about adults, voting adults. I don't know that there will ever be a movement that big again. And these are like the people that you want, coming into the conservative movement. But now you have side Candace, maybe side Tucker, side Israel, side anti-Israel, side Trump, anti-MAGA. I don't know where all this goes, but it definitely doesn't work out in our favor in the long run. Now, I'm not saying just blindly go along with whatever politicians say, and that's something you should never do. But what I am saying is, on some level, it's going to hurt or maybe even destroy the same movement that was being built. See, the point is never to deplatform or shut people up, right? Enough of that happens on the other side. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire as well. So I totally understand that. That doesn't mean you just be a pushover, but that's something that hopefully now Steven Crowder, now TPUSA, and even in your own lives, you can actually recapture that same type of energy if you want to change people's minds. Because we know at the end of the day, if you can do that, in my opinion, it would make our country a heck of a lot better than what it's ever been. We know the dangers, the true dangers of some of the ideology from the other side. But I'm also reminded of a specific verse that I think there's a lot more weight to this than what you may realize. Being patient and humbled, bearing one another in love, right? Meaning that bearing, right, in this meaning, or at least the way I read it, is knowing that sometimes you're going to have some strong disagreements with people around you, with people you work with people in politics. But the goal is never to drive them down on the ground or shut them up, but to hopefully instill something in them to change their minds. That's what Charlie did really well. He saw the dangers here. Obviously, another real danger is his message being lost forever because people just can't simply disagree, but still come to the table and bear one another with love. There you go. There's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know what you think down below. Do you think Charlie's messaging is getting way too lost in all of this controversy and conspiracy? Or do you think there's something else at play here? Let me know whatever your opinion is. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.